on threes. 1, 2s, and 3s. What's going on, Say Something, fam? Back in the building.
Yes, sir.
Another week in the books for y'all. That means more sports to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Got my man to my left. Got your boy right here. Reek behind the cam. So that means we're ready to go.
Let's go.
Mitch, let us know how you feeling. You know the traditions here. We got to let them know. Let me know. It's the vibes.
Man, feeling good, feeling great. My little nephew's about to have his birthday, so I'm about to kick it with him tomorrow. I'm excited about that. See the fam. Just ready to talk more sports. We had a good game last night in the NFL, so ready to talk about that. And just been relaxing, man, working hard, doing my best, you know? What about you?
There you go. Yeah, same thing. No complaints. You know, school is in full bore as we've been discussing. You know, we getting A's on papers out here, you know, just trying to 4.0 our way through it, work hard, you know, and try to, you know, get the results from that. But, you know, being a student is not easy for me. It's definitely not my forte, if you will. But I know I need it, and I do enjoy learning. So, you know, I'm definitely feeling like this is going to be the best go-round I've had yet.
Yeah.
And then in terms of my internship, really enjoying working with the youth them, you know, so we're gonna pick them up. And you know, the school's cool, you know, as I'm getting more vibey into it. I think it was just, you know, a shaky little start for the school in general, and things have kind of calmed down. I think everybody's feeling a little more like, okay, game plan is now set. So like, you know, we're more used to what is needed. But yeah, I'm ready to talk some sports. As Mitch said, there was a great game, obviously, last night. And, you know, lots of other things going on. So without further ado, we shall enter today's content. Thank you guys all for being here. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We're going to say that right here, right now, because I always forget to say it. So there's a big, beautiful red button just waiting for your wonderful self to go click on. Do us that solid and make that click. We're going to talk a little NBA.
Let's do it.
We're going to talk a little bit Warriors. You know what I mean? You guys love them. We love them. They're looking pretty good.
Yeah.
This is preseason, as you guys all know. So there's a little hesitancy in our voices when we say they're looking pretty good. And that's also why we add pretty good in there instead of like very good. 2-0, right? A little 91-90 victory over the Clippers to open it up.
Not bad.
No Kawhi, obviously.
Some light.
When is there ever a Kawhi, though, right?
Half the season or something.
You know? Yeah, we'll see him in December, maybe. Christmas Kawhi. And then we had that nice victory over the Kings, which we have right here, 122-112.
Right. A little bit of revenge, you know.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Get back.
Get back.
So it looks like we got a lot of shooters. I have the box score here as well. We kind of talked about this in the build-up. Still worried about size.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
But guys.
Yeah, we're definitely, for NBA, we definitely could be like D1 college in terms of size.
Oh,
yeah. Maybe even FCS. You know what
I
mean? But nonetheless, what we've done in the offseason is make sure we've doubled down on what we do very well already, which is shoot that.
Let's go.
And some of those guys now look like they might be actually pieces that will fit into this, you know, crazy offense that we always run, and, you know, may be able to subdue the loss of Clay alongside, you know, what we need in support for Steph. Right. So why don't you break down a little bit of what you think about some of our new guys? Obviously, we had Buddy Hield go bananas. Didn't even miss a shot out there. In terms of three-pointers, I think he was 5 for 5.
Right.
We had Melton looking phenomenal, and even our boy Muddy Waters out there with strap on him, making sure he lets everybody know, hey, I might not be able to dribble. I might not be able to defend. I might not be the tallest. I might not be the fastest. I might not even get you a rebound. But you know what I will do?
Bring it with me.
Bringing ham in here. Bringing ham and cheese. And, you saw his motion. That's not a joke. He's coming from the waist. Better get out his face. So I like it. What do you think, though? Just off a look.
I think it's kind of everybody working together, like 3 players trying to mesh into what Clay used to be as one player. Seemed like last year he was really forcing a lot of his shots, whereas these guys are coming in and being like, all right, you need me for about 25 minutes. I can go get buckets for that long, and then pass it on to the next guy, as well as being second fiddle or third fiddle to Steph. You know what I mean? He's going to be the guy the whole time that we rely on. And these guys really just need to do what they've been doing during the preseason, which is when it comes time for them to hit their open shots, they knock them down. Absolutely. And so far, so good. I think we had like 28 threes. 28 of them. Last game. So it's working right now. Let's just continue this heat stroke right now. I like it. I like what I see. Lindy Waters had a game winner, too, not too long ago. Yep. That was nice to see against the Clippers. Let's just keep it going. Hopefully we can be a speedy offense like we've grown to be throughout the years, and try and just get out and transition because we lack in height. And so playing a half-court game is going to be pretty tough for us.
Absolutely. So just to go over some of these stats real quick, just because I want to make sure that I read them out correctly. We also had Jonathan Kuminga performing very well, albeit did not get a lot of extras, which is, if we're going to feel good about him this year, go get us some boards, go get some assists.
Hopefully he decides he wants to be a player who's like, I'm going to go inside. I am 6'9", right?
Right.
So,
and a beast. Like my body, I have like a baby LeBron build.
Let's get average like 6 or something. You know what I'm saying?
Please.
Like, help us out a little bit down there because you're not much of a perimeter player. So let's stay inside the key.
Right. Then you had Pods with 8, 4, and 8. So really looking like, kind of what we want out of him. You know, that youthful Chris Paul-esque kind of play.
Do everything we don't feel like doing anymore.
Yeah, exactly. All the dirty work.
Get it done.
And, being +7 out there on the plus minus, just always showing up in the right way for him. So Pods, excited to see what he's going to be doing. But then really just to talk about the 3 that Mitch highlighted here, we have Lindy Waters, 3 for 5 from 3. That would, account for all 9 of his points, but we like those. Also got 2 boards, which, does that match Jonathan Kuminga? Oh, wait. Yeah, that matches Jonathan Kuminga.
Come on.
Don't do that, Jonathan.
Get down the post.
We got Buddy Hield, 6 for 7 from 3, 8 for 9 from the field in total, giving a good 22 points with a +13 on the plus minus.
I lied.
And Melton, our boy.
Yeah.
Good solid 6 for 12, pretty high volume, 4 for 9 from 3, giving us 16 points. We'll take those 5 rebounds, and we like those 3 assists. He had no defense, and he is known for defense. So normally I do expect him to get a steal or 2 as well in there, maybe a block. Really liking the way that looks. And on paper, I'm hoping that, I don't know about the Hield 22 and 19 minutes, right? But I think the rest of these numbers are realistic. And that's what I kind of like. I don't think Melton's going to average 16 for us, but I could totally see 13, 14 as opposed to his 12 that we saw with Philly, right? And then I could totally see him giving us a 5 and 4 number. You know what I mean? In that amount of minutes. He's going to get, I think, the most burn out of those 3, in my opinion. He'll be the most utilized. He's the most versatile. And truly, I believe he matches up best as a potential starter alongside. Like, if one of these 3 is going to burst into the starting lineup, I believe it'll be him because of the way he plays alongside Steph. Yeah. He's seamless alongside of him. Very smart player. And covers up defensively where Steph is like, I'm good.
And I feel like compared to the others, he's more of a ball handler.
Yeah. And then lastly, let's talk a little bit about Kyle Anderson. 20 minutes, 3 points, right, which is what we kind of know of Slow-Mo, but 4 rebounds, 4 assists. I think this guy, he averages 9 points, so he's obviously not going to, give 3 every night. But he's also not out there to be a scorer. No. He's a distributor. He's a guy that's going to do all the extras. And I truly love the way he looks out there. Reason mainly because it gets the ball out of Draymond's hands. And look, I love Draymond, and Draymond, the ball will be in his hands a lot this season. That's totally fine. But there needs to be moments where we don't need that, where we can have another option. And I completely see that in Kyle Anderson. And I may have said this on another episode before, but I get real like Sean Livingston vibes, but in a different way, right? Yeah. Like, not going to give as much scoring probably as Sean Livingston, but just this guy that will bring a different tempo, will not turn the ball over, and will be able to get it to the guys who we want it to get to, right? And that's kind of what we always have looked for in Draymond Green. we all know sometimes he likes to go AWOL.
Yeah.
And then that's tough when you're in that position to just leave us high and dry like that. So I love it. I do think, like Mitch has said, every single episode, we will be tested by size.
Yeah.
So like rebounding is going to be really hard. It's going to make us shoot a high percentage. We're going to need to because we're not going to be getting a lot of boards.
Right.
And so it'll be interesting to see if we do add some size throughout the year or what the plan is, or if we integrate post, right? Because we do have a 7-footer technically in the wings. Do we really think he's ready to contribute now? Probably not. But maybe mid-season, maybe they see something and maybe he comes in.
Yeah, I would say something mid-season that could potentially happen in my mind is the team like the Bulls, maybe letting go of Vucevic. And other players, of course. They got Zach LaVine,
taking both.
Kobe White. Most, they got Josh. They just got Josh Giddey, so they might be trying to switch things up if it's not meshing right away. So maybe somebody like Vucevic is somebody we could trade for. That would be interesting and would solidify us down low.
I love it. So that brings us to this next point, which really we can do kind of as a yes or no. But do you think the Warriors will make a trade this year, or do you think we go through it with what we have?
I think the way that we're playing right now is very run and gun, and I feel like that's going to take a lot of energy. And it's like, can we keep that consistency throughout the whole season, and can we stay hot throughout the whole season? Because, like we said, it's going to be a lot of shooting for us, a lot of three-point shooting as well. So it's kind of reminding me of how the Houston team was a few years back with James Harden and like PJ Tucker and those boys, where everything was a three. Like everything. Majority of the shots were a three. So I think we're going to play pretty similar to that. So I think if anything during midseason, it'd be a team, like I just said, like the Bulls, or somebody who's willing to let go of a big man that could provide for us, maybe even like a Steven Adams or something like that. Because we don't need somebody to be super dope. We just need a solid guy down there who could take up room, take up space, and also is doing well with distributing the ball when he's on offense.
Yep. I love those. I think that it's really going to depend to me on what Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody look like to start the year. I think if they can be ascending in the way we dream of, then I think that it'll be harder for us to make a trade. I do believe that we still could, and it would only be for size at that point, and it would be a guy who's probably even lower caliber than what Mitch is even mentioning, if it were that way. It'll be a guy who's literally just a big body to try to get something done down there, 6 fouls or whatever. But if Jonathan Kuminga and or Moses Moody isn't panning out, then I think the likelihood of a trade is very high. Right. I think that we will, even if it's just one of them, I think that because this is a make or break year for them, and there is no point for us to hold them any longer. If we're not going to let them unleash, and or if we don't feel they're a good fit, get the value back, right? And let's try to do something, and help both sides.
I feel like, I know it's tough because we just brought in so many people, but the fact that we're not unleashing Moody yet, it's like it doesn't really make sense, and it just seems like he only gets in for spurts at a time. It's never like, hey, like we watched you in Santa Cruz when you were putting up like 30 points a game. Let's see if you can move around with the ball in your hand a little bit and make things happen with the second squad, because there isn't really usually somebody who's like, hey, give it to me, I'll handle things in our second squad. So I don't know. I think he could. It doesn't have to be the whole season, but I mean, try it out for a few games, in my opinion. I just haven't understood why we haven't put more time into Moses Moody.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I heard a very interesting take on YouTube. I think it's this guy, Sports Alchemist. Okay. I believe that's the channel. I'll make sure I do get it. The next segment I hand off to Mitch, I'll make sure I get it so it's correct. But I heard him talking about just how he feels that Kerr just values playmakers and distributors over scorers, so much so that he feels like that's where Moody is getting slighted over these other guys who distribute. And although that does seem like a cut and dry take, I don't know if I've ever said that out loud. And I do think that now that I think about it, that is a lot of times what his approach is with this offense, even though sometimes for me, I feel like we're lacking in offense. So it's very interesting where you're like, okay, But I guess maybe he feels as though with the movement will create the offense. Without the right movement, the offense doesn't get whatever, right? But I'm totally in agreement. But back to the original point, I do think that a trade will happen, assuming one of those two guys doesn't really grab the role fully that they need to this year, and I don't think they both will. And so guys that I'd look at Valanciunas potentially from Washington. Doubt he sticks around there long. That was a very interesting signing in itself. Yeah. He's a guy who can rebound the heck out of the ball. He's destroyed us a lot in the past, and he can distribute. If we're okay with a little less distribution, I'd love to take a look at Clint Capella. Okay. I think he's going to be dangled for almost nothing. And, they're really over it over there. You know what I mean? And so if we're okay with the fact that he's obviously not going to be shooting the ball much and he's honestly not going to be distributing, we won't put the ball in his hands in any kind of motion. If we're okay with that, I'd go get it. And he'll also play defense, right? We know that. So those would be guys that I would say, we could be on the lookout for. And I would put it at an 80% trade chance at this point, just because of what Mitch mentioned I do not think we have enough minutes anymore for both of those guys to truly grab a role. And so I do think Jonathan Kuminga probably will grab one, but I think it'll be very tough and hard to imagine a world where Moses Moody also finds 20-plus minutes with all these guys. Transitioning, but not to a far-off land, we're going to go to fantasy land for basketball. Mitch is going to lead the way in this one because I don't have full-on access to my teams right now. He actually has full-on access to his teams. I have a little memory here. I'm not going to cap to y'all and be, going, oh, this is exactly how it happened with the draft order and all that. So I'm going to let him lead the way on this. And we're going to talk a little bit about what teams we've drafted, obviously where we picked, what we think of the draft board this year. Definitely different. And then we'll give a little bit of tips and tricks, a little bit of advice on what we think, if you haven't drafted yet, could help you when you draft.
So as of right now, top 4 picks are usually Victor Wembanyama, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, and Shai Glizzy, my boy Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Those guys have really been the consensus top guys, and everybody kind of falls in after that. The ADs, who else is there? Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards. Those are kind of your top 10 guys. Tyrese Halliburton's very high.
Yes.
So those are kind of your first-round picks. Sometimes a Chet Holmgren will be going first round for some people.
Shocking.
But he's usually on the turnaround in the second round for you. Kevin Durant is a guy who's kind of been going second, early third, like first pick of the third round or late in the second round.
Same with LeBron.
LeBron's
been getting drafted high.
LeBron's been getting drafted high. Another one, your boy Paolo Banchero has been getting drafted third, fourth round these days. Right now, there's a lot of uncertainty around Ja. He's kind of fallen to like a fifth round. Some people will get him fourth, but his ranking is low, like pretty low. Scotty Barnes is another player that a lot of guys are getting. He's a top 15 guy. So there's a lot of variety. Zion Williamson is somebody who's going like a fifth or sixth round in some of these drafts. So he's really down low, probably for his percentages and maybe not being a prolific rebounder, but you never know. A guy who can score that much, rebounds and other things will come. And then some late round guys like Keontae George for the Utah Jazz is somebody who's young, who's ready to come out for them. He's been going pretty low in the later rounds. Even a guy like Klay Thompson, I know he's kind of reduced now to just being a shooter, straight three-point shooter, but he's somebody who's probably going to shoot around 300, 400 three-pointers and make 200. So he's somebody to have on your team for sure if he's going to be still around in like the 10th round. Nas Reed and Bobby Portis are guys who can get in the late round who have a lot of value but go really late in drafts. They're one injury away on their teams from being the starter and being like a prolific player for them and not just somebody who just fills a role. They're both going to be important six-man, and they're going to be filling guys for everybody and can put up 20-plus points. with 2 or 3 threes. I mean, you just seen it if you watched the last Milwaukee game. Bobby Portis put up like 22 in like 19 minutes and shot like 4 or 5 threes and made all of them. So he's somebody who can shoot very well and somebody you can get for a great value late in the draft. And even like a Zach Edey is going low, and he might even be the starter for the Memphis Grizzlies. So he can be like a second to last round kind of guy for you if he really falls all the way. But overall, those are kind of the names that I've been going through and getting. Another guy like Franz Wagner, Orlando Magic, somebody who's very good. Vucevic for the Chicago is somebody who's solid, who usually goes on the 5th or 6th round. He's somebody really good to get. So there's a lot of different variety that you can go with, and that makes it interesting. And it's really interesting to see how kind of like the 1st and 2nd pick and the 9 and the 10 pick both end up with really pretty good teams because they choose like they choose back to back, and sometimes they'll reach, but it'll be a guy who's kind of worth it. So it
they
rounds
always
out.
get the guy who falls, too.
Right?
And
they always get the guy who falls. So don't get too discouraged if you're in the 8th, 9th pick. This year it seems to be a lot of depth, so you can really spread out those first 3 or 4 picks and still get a solid starting lineup for your team. But it's tough because you either got to really go all big man to start off or all PG, because a lot of guys will go 4 straight point guards. And if you haven't really picked one, you're kind of out of there with assists unless you did really good with like picking like Scotty Barnes and LeBron James, who are guys who are small forwards but also kind of get point guard assists. So you really got to strategize when you get those first couple of picks. Which way am I going to go? Am I going to go a lot of smalls and go back end and just worry about maybe like, all right, my big men aren't going to be scorers. They're just going to block and they're going to get rebounds. So I'm going to wait to the later rounds to try and get those guys. Whereas other side, I'm going to get like a Chet, and I'm going to get Sabonis, and then I'm going to get also like KD. So it's like, I got 3 power forward, small forward, center. All right, well, maybe I'm going to go with a Kobe White and gamble on a Jordan Poole late to try and be my offensive guys. Maybe even like an Anthony Simons kind of guy.
Who was going shockingly late as well.
Right, exactly. Like, so there's still even somebody like Jaden Ivey who's been showing out during the preseason. He's going like a second to last round kind
or
of guy.
even like free agency, man.
Even free agency. So there could be some if you just decide to go that route where I'm going to go like 4 big men to start out.
Yeah, I mean, I think this year Mitch just touched on a lot of the main points here, but I think it's definitely a weird year, right? Like I don't know if I can remember a board swap on that top tier level of just so much flip-flop, uncertainty, youth rising. I mean, all of the above. And I've never felt weirder about, just those top 10 picks, really. Like, I don't, you normally in a draft, I feel like I know after the first 10 picks who I feel like are the teams just based on where they drafted, of like who's coming out ahead in the first round. This year, I'm like, it feels good to say, if you have Nikola, like I still feel in my heart that Nikola is the number one. And if you're able to get him, it's like, okay, that might be the only player this year where I would feel like, all right, I've done my best. Everybody else, I'm just like, they could be great. And you're also betting on their career years. You know what I mean? And so it's like, that's a scary proposition with your first round pick. So that just goes back to what Mitch is saying of like, don't be afraid of where you're drafting this year because you'd feel that way anyway. You'd be at 4, you'd feel that way. You're at 8, you feel that way. 10, same thing. And I think he makes a great point of like, do try to figure out this year what your strategy is in terms of positionally, like, or if you're in category leagues, pick the ones that you want to win that are realistic and truly draft for that, because there are going to be ones this year you're going to lose, right? Like, there might have been years in the past where I truly felt like there was enough triple threat demons out there to where you could technically construct a team that was vying in all categories if you found enough defense with your bench. This year, I'm a non-believer. Like, I do not think there's enough stats to go around in terms of truly like, oh, I'm gonna build a team that just like across the board is like actually vying to win each week. Yeah. So I'm like, this year I really went in on some like, I want to pick correlating categories, right? And I want to pick ones that I feel like on a really good week, right? I'm gonna win because I think ours is 9 category. Yeah. So I'll win 6-3. That's what I'm shooting for. I'm gonna give you 3. I'll take 6. That's a pretty good deal, right?
I feel like if you get to pick Vic, like you automatically win blocks.
Yeah,
every week. Like, if you have Victor and then like one other big man who like you can even wait for like a Brook Lopez, somebody who also blocks a lot of shots, but he's going like the 9th round or 8th round or whatever. But it's just like, all right, you win blocks automatically.
I mean, that's how it was last year. I had him and Chet on the team.
Game over.
It was ridiculous. But yeah, so I think this year, you just got to kind of, be decisive and also recognize that there is a fall off in playmakers much quicker, and there's a lot more scores this year. So I think it's it looks a lot more like a scorers league now. Yeah, definitely. Like you can really construct a team with all 20 plus scores relatively easy.
Yeah, 100%.
So like be very careful with that. I know there are, unless you're in a points league, right? Where go for it.
Run it up.
Like, yeah, exactly. But like this year, I feel like there's almost more value in playing a points league than there is categories if you truly want to see the value of the draft.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's why Yahoo now, their automated is in points, which is super weird. Like if you auto draft now, I was like, what? They don't even give you an option for categories. So, I would just say, the one question for me, which I'm going to hand back to Mitch, is, what happens if you do get that number 1, right? And I think that there's a lot of debate. And I think it might be the hardest question of the draft because I think everything else, and maybe that's every year, maybe, but there are a lot of years where it's just unanimous. There's no question. You're at number 1. You're like, so what you've had the option so far. Right. I have not had the chance yet to make that decision. What went into it for you, and how do you feel about it?
Well, I had the number 1 pick in my draft, and I picked with Victor Wembanyama because of what I just said. I just felt like, all right, I automatically win one category already just off one player. And so I feel like that's why it's such an advantage to have. But I agree with you in the sense of I think Jokic is the best player to have. Like, he's a walking triple-double.
Right.
Every game.
And efficient.
Efficient as hell. It's like, he's the best player in the league, probably, if like somebody like Victor isn't like destined to be the GOAT
already. Because he is destined to be the GOAT.
Because unless this year he can make a huge jump, and it's like I don't see why not. If you're already putting up 21 and 12, like that's the floor. Okay, with four blocks, okay,
and like 2 steals.
I'll take that, and you'll get like 4 or 5 assists. You know what I mean? Like,
and he's hitting threes.
And you're getting 3s, so it's like he's an all-around player.
Shooting like 85% from the free throw.
Right. So he's somebody who's just hasn't had the longevity that Nikola Jokic has had.
Yeah.
But can put up the same kind of numbers, just multiply the blocks. So that's why I went with Vic. I also would rather watch Victor than Jokic. Like, I'll watch the highlights of Jokic, but watching the games of Victor, I think it's just like he's going to be doing some crazy stuff and that I don't think I've seen before. And,
right.
Jokic plays an ugly game, but much respect. Like, you're amazing, Jokic, but it's like I'm trying to see some excitement, and that's the other part of fantasy, right? It's like the people you want to see, people you're excited about, and so that's why I went with Vic first.
Amazing. I have no arguments, no quarrels. I think you can't go wrong.
Right.
I think that the only point that I would add on that kind of he already is mentioning as well is just Jokic is more defined, so therefore his minutes aren't. And that would be the only thing that scares me about Victor is Popovich is just not scared to chill until they're really going to win. And so I do think he's going to get more unleashed than last year. And this is kind of still a point to what Mitch is saying is like he was doing all that in much less minutes than Jokic. Like all those numbers he just mentioned are happening in, I think he might have still got over the 30 minutes a game last year, Mark, but it would be barely.
Barely.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it's more like 28 minutes with how he actually got, distributed his minutes down the line. So that would be the only thing that I would say is that, like, Popovich can be frustrating. Mm-hmm. And he's one of those guys that, he puts leashes on people who we all know every other coach wouldn't. Right. Which is probably good for Wembanyama in the long run, but could be a hindrance to your team if that's the number one pick. Mm-hmm. But you can't go wrong. And he's right. You will win blocks. That's a guarantee. So, it's who you like at that point. Right. Just ice cream flavors. The two guys that I want to highlight before we move forward to the next segment that I've really noticed in the 2 drafts, maybe 3 drafts that I've done, would be DeMar DeRozan is very undervalued.
Very, very.
Do not know why. I'm very confused as to why he's so far down the draft board.
He's way down there.
Grab him. If he's not going to continue rising the board, I think he's going like 7th,
he's going
8th round. Grab him. There's no debate. The other one is Pascal Siakam. I have no idea.
Oh yeah, that's so
what
weird.
He's doing down where he's at. He's he's in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
That's wrong. So let me just tell you,
blew it.
I have skipped out on drafting him so far only because positionally he's just a power forward, and I've just never needed it, which has been super unfortunate. But believe me, on the next draft I do, I'll be snagging both of those guys up, and you would be smart to do it as well. So that would be my little bit of tips and tricks right now in the early process of this. We'll obviously, keep a monitor on it. And once we get a full hold of our favorite roster, we'll go ahead and bring that back to you guys. We'll tell you where we picked, why it's our favorite roster, and we'll do a breakdown in that manner. We have on our next subject a very quick one, just a quick salute, an American flag salute. No patriotism, but just Pulisic, man. Wow. Wow,
Captain
man.
America,
lighting
baby.
The world on fire. You got Pochettino out here going live, putting his neck behind you, saying you're one of the best in the world. You need to be protected. You have 5 goals and 2 assists in 7 games for Milan. You're destroying. You have Milan in first place.
He's that boy.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to vie for that Serie A title this year. And he looks like he'll be a vocal point. Him and Leao, his boy. Are just quite the duo. And you put really anybody else alongside those guys right now, and it looks like it's going to be gold. So I just had to shout that guy out because, at the end of the day, he's our talisman.
Yep.
And we have a huge World Cup coming up in our house, obviously around the corner, 2026. So we need that build up, man. We need the hype. And believe it or not, we're doing a lot of recruiting right now. If you're following the U.S. men's national team, Pochettino is hitting the ground running. He's going after a lot of big names who have dual citizenship. Some of them have tri-citizenship. So we're trying to yank some of these guys. In one of these future segments, I'm going to break down each of those players who we're looking to grab, and I'll try to give you guys a likelihood meter that we're going to be able to sway them our way. But he's shooting big. He's definitely going for high-end players to come in. And so performances like we're seeing from Pulisic are going to be important, to promoting our program. But I am excited to see what it'll look like to have a manager who we've both seen do damage on the world scene come in a new place, new vibes, and try to put some good footsteps down for us. But it looks like he's starting in the right direction. So Pulisic, keep up that hard work, my brother. Next, we're going on to the other game where you kick it with your foot, but only occasionally, and that's only when your team is probably doing worse than you'd like. That would be the NFL.
That's the hood.
We have, like my man's mentioned in the intro, a wonderful Thursday night update.
Oh, boy.
Now that it is Friday, some days we shoot on Thursdays, you never know, but because the Niners were playing yesterday, I had to say, fellas, not going to happen tonight. I got business to handle. And it looked for a minute like the Niners didn't get the memo. We did dominate the whole game, but if you've been watching the Niners, you're used to that. Problem is that last quarter, right? Get to that third, we all take our jersey off, we put our pads up, give our helmets to the wives, get the home cooking ready. And the other team's like, cool, we still got unis, we still got a quarter, we still got ball to play. Spank, time, and we walk away with that L. Sick and tired of it. We were about to be 0-3 in the division. We were up big. We were not down at any point in the game. Third quarter, of course, we let things get shaky as we're getting to the fourth. Ends up being 23-17 heading into the fourth. Shout out to some big performances by our rookies, especially on the defensive end for holding it down. Malik Mustafa, big pick. And that is a man who has stone hands, my friends. So for him to grab that, you got to be happy. I mean, that's Dante Whitner in the flesh. Yeah. Malik, double M. Don't you trip off what I'm saying. You are a hitter. You are a huge impact player. I'm just saying, we all know coverage ain't your strong suit. So when we see that, we either know you made a fantastic player. We know the quarterback did not. And then you got Renardo Green, who makes a pick across the middle on who else but DK Metcalf. This is a guy who weighs about $170. I am not joking. Should only be playing in the slot, but has the mindset of a lunatic. He'll take anybody on. He was talking a lot of dookie, a lot of mess to Juwan Jennings in the start of the season. That was recorded and kind of went viral a little bit for, our Niners. We have our little preseason show or whatever you call it. And, he was saying he was going to smack Juwan Jennings, who's by far our biggest receiver and one of our biggest offensive players in general, which, obviously got a laugh out of Juszczyk and Juwan. But they were impressed nonetheless with the fact that he just didn't care and he was serious. So he has a little like Draymond in him. It was just like, we don't know if he's, but he sure wants to take him on. You know what I mean? And you see that with what happened with that pick, man. He took on DK Metcalf as a guy who's double his size and just beat him across the middle. Geno Smith made a very poor read, and that was the game. You can call it that. Injuries have been destroying us. Very, very sad to see. Jordan Mason, who leads the league in rushing, we just can't catch a break, right? This guy had 9 rushes for 73 yards. Say it with me. 9 rushes, 73 yards. That's an 8.1 average if you don't know math, which I don't without ESPN, but we like that. He played 2.5 quarters, and he's getting those numbers, right? This is a guy who's been dominant all year. This was one of the softer falls I've seen him take. Yeah. And I don't even know what happened, but, I hope everything's okay. It's the shoulder. I hope it's good. But then this is a guy who came in who I've been telling everybody about. Guerrero, the kid, Isaac Guerrero, another one of our rookies who I've always said, I love the draft pick, right? If he can figure out how to run a little lower, right? Go ahead and tuck that chin, buddy. You got a future. And we finally saw you utilize that. You were running high your first couple carries, getting taken down by arm tackles. And then, you really figured it out on that last drive. You hit that hole, tuck that chin, bounce right off those arms, and you run a 4.38, my friend. So when you see green, you can take it. And he did. He went down that field. That I'm still a little angry, but I get it. He wasted the clock out. He did that. But the reality is, you run that in. That's your first touchdown. Amazing first touchdown for your NFL career. And we win the game anyway. But being a good team player. Team guy. I like it. We'll take it, right? But that's what you want to see. He came in 10 carries, 99 yards. So
it's not going to get you that bonus, though.
Yeah, you needed that 100. But 9.9 yards per carry. I mean, you want to talk about efficiency with rushing. We had 2 running backs who easily could have had 100 yards if they just decided to. Yeah. So, anytime you got 2 guys who are averaging over 8 a carry, hello, we like that. Brock Purdy, again, playing just what we need, right? The guy is just efficient. Glock. 255, Glock Purdy, 3 TDs, well-known figure at this point, deserves the upgrade and the payday that he will get in this offseason. But, man, this guy, 90 QBR, he just, at this point, knows what to do. And you can tell he's decided, I'm no longer, playing alongside the stars, right? I'm a part of it. Yeah. Okay. And that's what we're seeing with this. We got guys going in and out the lineup at all times. We don't know who's really playing. And he's the only guy who's like, it doesn't matter. I got this. Whoever's out there, we're going to distribute. Let's make it happen. Shout out to Patrick Taylor, who's a guy who has been on his couch My man doesn't do anything. You had to take 5 carries. I mean, this is how injured we are. Shout out to you for even doing that. And our kicker almost. Let me be clear about this.
Again?
Let me be clear about this. Also, let me give a shout out to Debo real quick and my boy George Kittle as well. He had 2 touchdowns, and that is now 4 games straight with a touchdown, the longest of his career. So that's impressive stuff from you, Georgie.
Football-wise of Santa Clara, we got to see them. Check and Kittle.
They were courtside or whatever you call it, field side, whatever.
In the suites over there.
Yeah. And then you had Debo, obviously, with that 73-yard touchdown, 3 catches, 102 yards.
Out of there.
Amazing, man. 76-yard touchdown, I'm sorry. And then also Garindo, his long run was 76 yards as well. So we saw a lot of big plays. Jordan Mason, his long was 38. So there's a lot of chunk plays. We love to see it. That's Niner ball at its finest. We just got to be able to close these games out. So that would be kind of my closing remark. Other than the fact that if our special teams doesn't get to these guys before our kickers at this point, we need a talking to. And that special teams coach is going to have to come into these meetings and really face the music. Because 2 weeks in a row, you got our kicker making one-on-one tackles with the kick returner.
Just get out of the way.
Moody, who's the best kicker in the NFL this year, he's gone for a month easy. High ankle sprain. Blew him out. We're lucky that wasn't worse. If you watched it, a tear came out of my eye when that happened. Because I'm talking about his ankle and
third-round pick.
Bro, and his ankle and his knee were the dude got blown all the way back to his hometown. I'm talking about his knee was back in Frisco and everything else was back where he's from. We don't need to be seeing this. And then the next week, I'm like, whatever, luck is luck. We just got that. Wright, who's come in, hit 3 field goals, could have been man of the match in this.
Yeah.
Player of the game, whatever you want to call it.
Man of the match, boys. Crazy, right? Oh, wow. Sound like you're from London.
Right, London boys. But, he comes in, he hits a 41, I think it was 23 and a 33 or something like that, but 21 and a 33. Really solid performance. Then comes down and gets absolutely demolished. Shoulder looked awful. You could see him grimacing through the whole helmet. And the entire time, there was nothing good that was going to come out of it. Not one thing. I'm watching the collision about to happen. I didn't even care if he scored.
Yeah.
That's how bad there was nothing. He hit the ground like a pinball. Just bop, 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 bop. And the other dude looked like this was like fun time. It was like, are we really doing this again? Y'all are going to have it? Okay. So let's just not ruin our season by allowing our kickers to be our safeties. And let's just get back to regular football where the guys who hit guys. The guys who kick the ball. Just chill. I also don't know why our guys are so aggressive. Like that's the other part too, where I'm like, I don't see a lot of it.
You better not get hurt if you're finna do this.
Why are you gunning like that? Yeah, like bro was running full speed. Like who taught him that? Last shout out before I move on, because I know I've said this about 3 times, is I gotta say Fred Warner as well. 11 total tackles, 6 solo, another forced fumble. This guy
was nasty.
This guy might be the punch fumble god. He has, I think, 4 already this year. Watch when you come by Freddie. Yeah. Okay? That's all pro Freddie for a reason. You love when you have a guy like that there. And then Demo Lenore, I thought he played very well. Without a Chavarius, he had to step up, guard a lot of the number ones. He did get toasted a couple times there. You played well when it mattered, so we're going to give you that last shout out. Good win. We got to hope for better. As we continue to move forward, and let's hope the injury bug doesn't continue to bite us the way it has. We got a little Raiders preview coming up. As you guys know, Mitch has been on the hot seat and putting his whole team on the hot seat in recent weeks. So let's see what this Raiders preview looks like as they go into their game with the Steelers.
Yeah, man. So coming up, Steelers coming to town, coming to Vegas. Last game did not go our way. Lost 34-18. We were up 10-3 on the goal line, ready to score again, and Minshew throws a pick that goes back for a 100-yard touchdown from Patrick Surtain. And then we forgot how to play offense because we didn't score until the fourth quarter. Meanwhile, we were letting up points back, letting them score whenever they feel like it. Bo Nix this whole season has looked like a guy who was destined to be a backup his whole career. He looked just fine against the Raiders. Had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, ran the offense, looks like an actual QB in the NFL, which he's not. But, that's what we do. We make guys look good for a game, give them something for the tape, something to talk to other teams about. We just really fell off right after that. We could have took a 17-3 lead, flippity flop, end up not even scoring until the 4th. So that just leads me to Jaden Daniels. What happened, Raiders? Why did we not make this move? The Commanders are 4-1. Not because of great defense, not because, this running game's amazing. It's because this guy who's like the number 4 ranked person in fantasy football, in Jaden Daniels. We didn't think that we should, let's throw some picks. Let's throw some guys at somebody so we could move up to get a franchise quarterback, which is what we're lacking right now. Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell, it's like, why we even go to the other guy? It's not going to be any, it's not a difference. One guy is average, one guy is below average, and barely in the NFL. When we have an electric franchise quarterback type in Jaden Daniels, who is good with our coach, has played for him before, all we need to do was make a move, and we didn't. This is what we're left with. Indecision at quarterback with 2 bad decisions, now about to go against a team that picked up a quarterback that we could have used as an option in Justin Fields, who could have been somebody who moved around, was mobile for us, who could have went outside the pocket, which continues to collapse for Gardner Minshew, who can't get out of that. So I just think it's somebody who could have kept Devontae Adams on the field,
Definitely
wanting to play. I mean, that's all anybody on offense was looking for was, are we going to make a move at quarterback?
Some excitement.
And we did nothing. So this is what you get. You get guys who don't want to be on the team anymore, guys who are dejected because I can't get the ball, even though I'm a lottery pick and a generational tight end. I'm basically having to jump over guys, get a ball, get 40 yards a yak to even get any kind of positivity. So Raiders, a little discouraged right now. We got the Steelers, the Rams, the Chiefs, the Bengals. The next 4 games. We're 2-3 right now. How we come out of that is going to basically make or break the season.
Right.
Because then it's the Dolphins, the Broncos again. So then, it's back to teams that we potentially are going to be favorites against. These next 4, we are not. Can we muscle up? Can we win some of these games? Can we show some pride? Or is everybody already dejected and the season's over because our front office didn't make a move for a quarterback?
That's really rough. I'm glad you brought up the Jaden Daniels point because I feel it's very worthy to just highlight how well he's doing. Mm-hmm. So just major props to Jaden Daniels. I mean, this guy having the Redskins at 4-1.
Crazy. Nonsensical.
And then, just to reiterate the point, Justin Fields, I believe, went for a 6th rounder.
6th round pick.
So it's not just the fact that was an option, but Raiders could have given up 10 6th round picks. Right. They don't need that. And just for where the roster was at, none of that ever made sense for the timeline. You know what I mean? Where it's you have prolific, you had prolific people where you needed them.
Right.
And you just decided somehow that the only place you didn't want to match the timeline was the distributor of everything. Mm-hmm. That'd be us as the Warriors in our prime, bringing in KD and being but we're trading Steph. It's okay, congrats on getting KD, but
would have been a lot better with both of them.
Yeah, and is that not kind of maybe even a step back? What the what? People love Steph, right? And so that's just kind of how I feel with the situation where it's People were vying for Justin Fields.
Mhm.
People were vying for a change, period. And it was also well known that Adams backed Daniels.
Yeah.
Said he liked what he saw on his tape. Said if the Raiders did that, he would support the move.
100%. Listen to your best player.
And so, and now he's faking an injury.
Yeah, faking.
So that he can get out of there. You know what I mean?
That boy is not injured. He is doing Taco Bell commercials.
100%.
All day.
100%. And just to highlight what he's mentioning, we have Gardner Minshew, 1,014 yards so far, 4 touchdowns, 5 ends. And we're looking at, they've played 5 games. So that's less than a touchdown a game. And that's a pick a game. We also have Brock Bowers as the highest receiver on the Raiders right now. He has 313 yards, 28 receptions, 1 touchdown. And honestly, he's earned every one of those yards.
Right.
That 313 for a tight end is impressive.
Mm-hmm.
28 receptions right now, that's fine.
Yeah.
And to think that that's with Gardner
Minshew,
Dookie Minshew back there, it's insane. Mr. Mustache, you need to get back to backup, calling the plays on the sideline, looking hella cool and shit, bringing the feng shui to the team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with that. I'm not saying you should be out the NFL. All I'm saying is you're not a Pro Bowler, so let's be real about whatever happened last year with the Colts and all the injuries that allowed you to get on the Pro Bowl team. And you're really not a starter. There's not really many teams where I would see a reason other than a Brissett situation where it's fine. And unfortunately, I don't think the Raiders were where the Patriots were, and even the Patriots got a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So, without further ado, we can move on to Cal, which also will be led by Mitch today. Money Mitch was in the building, as you guys know, or if you don't know, now you know. He has season tickets, so he's in the building for every last team that he can make it to, of course. But we just played Miami. We've had our hearts broken. The combo between Cal and the way that the Niners lost prior to that Thursday night, that weekend of sports for me was just, I was numb. But, we had really a popping scene, right?
Man, amazing.
And we had also, college game day for the first time ever. So walk us through what that was like. I have no idea other than experiencing it on the TV. So he's going to take us there. He's got to.
Yeah, seeing the highlights from game day, Cal, Berkeley, they really showed out.
Yeah.
They made it really exciting. That was a lot of fun to watch. Shouts out to you guys. But being at the game, it was so hot to start off, first of all. It was 80 degrees during the game. Miami probably felt at home on the field. It was so hot.
Loving it.
But it was probably the most cracking game since we were in high school, back when we had Marshawn, Deshaun Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, all the big names, Cameron Jordan, all those guys.
Right.
So since then, this was the most exciting. The fans, the students really showed out. It was a packed stadium. There was barely anywhere to sit. People were just arguing for seats because everybody was all scrunched in. But it was exciting, man. There was so many big plays for Cal. There was a huge pick six that put us up 14-3. And then
Noah Williams, baby.
Jaden Ott had 2 long touchdowns and was going crazy the whole game.
Love to see it.
It did seem like he was getting hurt a little bit on some of the plays. His ankle was bothering him. Yeah. So that was unfortunate. Hopefully he can, get healthy and be able to provide a full game for the team. But
for real,
a huge letdown in the second half. I feel like in the way we handled the time management, which is something I said last week when I was like, man, we need to control possession. Towards the end of the game, we couldn't execute. We couldn't get enough yards. It seemed like every time we were able to get somewhere, there was always a penalty that took us back. There was a huge non-call, in my opinion, of targeting by Miami against the quarterback, Mendoza. It looked clear. It went to review. I didn't see it on TV and how it looked from that perspective, but for me, for the instant replays they were showing us at the game,
it looked like
it looked like he got hit in the head with the helmet.
Absolutely. the crown of it.
The way that they're protecting quarterbacks and, putting such an emphasis on targeting, I'm surprised that they're just like, yep, run it. Like,
especially after they went to watch the replay.
And they took a while, too. So
I was shocked.
I was surprised, and that could have swayed the game. That was like the last 5 minutes of the game. But just not being able to run the game out and get inside the 2-minute warning on offense and force them to use their timeouts, it just allowed them to have as much time as they needed to get down the field to score and beat us. And having the first play on their drive for the game-winning touchdown be like a 70-yard run. It was just like, what defense? Like, I feel like we had just had like a pause and play too, where we could take time and go over the defense and really be on everybody, because that would have helped tremendously if they had to call timeouts and not be on the 2-yard line,
100%,
which is where they ended up. But
100%.
It really sucked to have all that excitement throughout the game and then lose it in that fashion, where like there was a lot of back and forth trash talk, and it's, to give Miami that satisfaction of walking off the field, being able to have the winners talk when we were kind of dominating the whole game. Just wasn't a good look. It's unfortunate, but shouts out to the Cal Bears for playing 3 quarters of really, really exciting football, and for pretty much showing up on ESPN primetime and not putting out a dud, man. Again, for 3.5 quarters, we were the exciting team to watch. We were the fun team out there. So a great environment, a great game. Just sucks to lose.
Yeah, and I think it was probably up to date the best game of this year.
Yeah,
so that's awesome that we were able to show up when we needed that, and we were able to really, when it mattered most, still be competitive.
Yeah.
So it looks like the Dodgers just won.
Dodgers,
which is going to lead us into this next section perfectly. But yeah, just quick shout out to Cal. Appreciate you boys for showing up, man. Heartbreaking the way it went with Florida State and Miami, 2 tough teams, but you guys tried your best. Hopefully this can be big for the program, even in losses, to keep building towards bigger things. But the way that game was reminded me so much of my Niners right now, and just especially the way we played against the Cardinals that same weekend, just dominating and then just giving it up just for nothing. Right. My heart was shattered. And then also, lastly, I don't know if we mentioned this, but it looks like Aiden O'Connell will be starting for the Raiders this coming week.
Woo!
And it's so disrespectful to him, because it's like, yeah, we're taking all your weapons away, but like, now's the time we'll throw you back out there. Good job, guys.
Still got Brock.
Yeah. You too. We'll be together for a while.
Hey, we can't knock Jacoby, though. Jacoby's
lit.
Trey Tucker could do his thing.
Yeah, I needed Trey more last week. So before we're going to close out today's show, obviously, like I said, Dodgers just pulled it off over the Padres. Wowzers. That takes us into our MLB update. So Mitch has been carrying this show, and he's going to continue doing so. So, Mitch, take it away. What we got for the MLB today?
Man, just to start out, that was Game 5 of between Padres and Dodgers. Didn't go so well for the Padres. Looks like they got shut out. Guess this was a great game for pitching and defense. It looks like it was 2-0.
Oof.
So shout out Dodgers making it to the NLCS. You guys will face the New York Mets. The New York Mets showing dominance over the Phillies. They won that game, or they won that series 3-1.
Crazy.
A lot of late game heroics by players like Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, Mark Vientos, really showing up for this postseason. His first one. He's making a name for himself. But it seems like a lot of solid pitching, and then at the end of the games, being close enough to put runners in scoring position and get them in. A lot of clutch hitting for them right now. They've been playing a lot of exciting baseball because, like I said, it's been coming down to the 7th, 8th, 9th inning. They're down the score 2. They somehow pull it off, get the win. They get guys like Edwin Diaz to come in, shut it down for them. So they got a good bullpen shutting it down, as well as another team that has made it in the AL, the New York Yankees. Yankees beat the Royals, shut down your boy Bobby Witt. Only had about 2 hits this whole series. They really locked him down. But that's a tribute to some good starting pitching and some amazing relief pitching from the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
Their bullpen has not given up a run in the playoffs yet. So they're really showing out right now. And whenever your bullpen, you can throw them in the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th inning, get all that quality pitching, you're going to be shutting teams down because it's very hard as a hitter to face a different guy every single time. You know, back in the day, you usually see guys like a starting pitcher 2, 3, 4 times in a lineup. But now you're seeing a new guy almost every at bat. Makes it tough on the guys who are hitting to make adjustments. So, shouts out, Yankees will be playing the winners of the Guardians and the Tigers.
Crazy also.
Another crazy series that's going to be Game 5 tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. You can check that one out. Tarek Skubal will be trying to help the Detroit Tigers move past the Guardians. It's been a lot of good pitching from the Tigers. The first game, the Guardians won. They started off very fast, scoring in the first couple of innings. Then in the game 2 and 3, did not score at all, and the Tigers pitching shut them down. Game 4, the Tigers couldn't keep up the pitching. The Guardians were able to knock in a few runs, get that win, and we'll see if Tarek Skubal, like I said, can really shut them down for a Game 5 and move the Detroit Tigers to play the New York Yankees in the ALCS. So that's going to be an exciting game. Like I said, watch that in the morning. But as of right now, we got the Mets versus the Dodgers in the NLDS, and then we have the Yankees waiting on the Detroit Tigers or the Guardians for the ALCS. So it's a lot of exciting baseball right now. Every game has been exciting going down to the last couple innings. It's sad to see guys like Fernando Tatis, who was going crazy.
Best hitter in the playoffs. Best hitter in the playoffs.
Sucks to see him go out, but that's just how dominant the Dodgers are. Shohei moving on to the next series. See if he can get a World Series in his first year with the Dodgers.
They got $1 billion on that payroll, so you'd like to think maybe it's a shot. But yeah, so that's the update there. Do you have any predictions based on the series you see now? Obviously, we're still waiting on if you maybe you can give a closing on the Cleveland Detroit. Do you have any? Do you think that this will make Tarek the #1 pitcher this year if he can get this win though?
I think if he can get this win for sure. I mean, he's playing he's pitching as if he was like LeBron with the Cavs back when he was first playing. Bro, these hitters,
no shot.
I mean, you couldn't even name them. Like Matt Vierling, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson. I mean, you got guys who are just like,
gross.
Where did these guys come from? You watch the games, you see their at bats like Kerry Carpenter. They're just like they're piecing these runs together like by the skin of their teeth. You're just surprised that they're scoring at all.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying. Obviously, you guys are in the playoffs. You guys made it this far, but it's clear that the pitching really, really dominated because, man, watching that lineup go at it, it's like, man, if the Guardians can just go ahead like 3 or 4 runs like they have in the games that they've won, I don't know if the Tigers
could ever
catch up with that.
And that just says like how good they've been blanking that lineup too. That lineup's like solid too. It's not like a weak lineup. So do you have any predictions for that? Do you think Cleveland?
I say that Cleveland comes out of this one and will face the Yankees. I think guys like Steven Kwan and Josh Naylor will come up clutch. I think they will come out strong in the first couple of innings and touch up Tarek Skubal. It's really hard to keep the consistency throughout the whole postseason, especially on such short rest. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him shut them down, but maybe the bullpen kind of letting them down for the Tigers. And again, I don't mean to harp on this, but just the offense of the Tigers doesn't give me much hope. I'm like, very good for you guys for making it this far with that lineup, honestly. Shocking.
And then Mets and Dodgers?
Mets and Dodgers, I mean, if the Mets can keep playing like this, it seems like a team of destiny type of thing where it's like, all right, another actual $1 billion lineup. Like, they've spent a lot of money on their team just as much as the Dodgers. So I think it's their time, if any. The Dodgers, I mean, again, the Padres played really well this series, but again, they choked. It's like they were up 2-1, right? So that's pretty normal for them. Like they usually do this. They play so well and then they end up losing.
Give it all
and
up.
In my opinion, the Dodgers haven't played that well so far. They just have had the luck of playing the Braves and then the Padres, a team that never shows up, as you saw, 0 runs in the deciding game. So I am now excited to see the Mets. They beat the Phillies, who I thought were going to beat the Mets. So I just think if they can keep this momentum, the Mets can take it all the way.
Absolutely. Don't forget in the comments to put what team you think is going to make it to the World Series. One from the AL, one from the NL.
Yeah.
Who you got? And without further ado, we're going to shut this show down today so that we can make sure we get back to content, soaking up.
Yeah.
And so we got next week for y'all coming soon. But much love from the Say Something fam. And shout out to Mitch for carrying the show today, man.